breweries similar to?
I mean, I think it's a culture, to be able to get on a bike or to walk around, and I mean, you're talking about walking 2 blocks and turning right and being like, amazing bar, and then walking a block and being like, amazing brewery, and that's how you spend your whole time. I mean, that's, they call it Asheville is Beer City America.
Yeah.
It's not true. I mean, it's worth going just to look at the Ninkasi gates at the front of Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
Like beyond, like how amazing that brewery is. I don't know, do you visit a lot of breweries?
Oh yeah.
So when you go to a brewery, to me, like you always have this image in your mind of like the most beautiful place on a giant property with mountains in the background or some shit, and then the clouds part and sun is shining on the driveway, and you're like, oh. And that was my view of every brewery and everyone. I went to San Diego, and I think it's not that they're not nice, like Stone and places like that. It's not that feeling of like I'm returning home to Valhalla or some shit, And at Sierra in Asheville, you get that feeling like this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And to be a 30-year-old brewery, that's like the fruition of everything that they've ever done, and was that their end game was to build that brewery.
Yeah.
It shows. Every last detail is done right. I mean, you just went, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's beautiful. It's like our Graceland, basically.
Yeah.
And Ken's like our Elvis, So
it's like a cathedral to brewing.
A little bit, and then you meet Ken, and you're like jizzing all over yourself, and you're stumbling all over your words.
I didn't know that happened. Yeah. I was like, I need to meet that guy, but now that I'm aware,
he's not a big dude, but he's intimidating when you meet him because of who he is.
Yeah, he's got a big presence.
And when you go to the tour, they really like build him up. You learn about his backstory from the 70s, and you're like, this is a dude who took dairy tanks when there wasn't an industry.
Yeah.
And made something that didn't exist, and he owned a bike shop and was kind of like sort of a,
tinkerer,
transient. Like he sort of traveled around,
Yeah.
and a tinkerer. He liked to build stuff, and he had a passion for home brewing. And he had a bunch of friends who were like, "You make great beer. You should open it." Like pretty much probably every home brewery. Yeah, you should open your own brewery. And the guy was like, I should open my own brewery, and he did. And to see that and like his humbleness is crazy. Like when you sit with him, you're like, in the back of your mind, this guy's a billionaire, self-made.
Yeah.
In an industry that we're in, it's somewhat overwhelming when
he
you meet
basically built this industry in America. I mean,
in a lot of ways, like he's a granddaddy of everything.
Yeah.
So when you get a chance to sit with him, and I think when you meet people like him or Bill Kovaleski or anybody who's been doing it for a long time,
kind of Mount Rushmore of.
Well, and I like to talk, and I think even I'm like, I should shut up and just listen for a second.
Yeah.
These guys probably know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because we had Bill Kovaleski here before we opened. From Victory. And he was at my bar, and I said, hey, I'm opening this brewery. You should come try some of these beers we've been making. And we came over here, and Vince was here, and I think I was looking at him maybe a little too lusty when he was drinking the beer, and he was kind of tipping it back, and I think I maybe even gaping my mouth as I watched him sort of drinking his beer, and he looked over at me, and I said, man, it's kind of awesome that you're here drinking our beers, and for him to turn around and say, you know what, it's probably just exciting for me to be here, and what you guys are giving me right now, you guys are going to do really well. To have somebody like that tell you that before we started, I mean, I had full faith with him because he has 16 years experience.
Right.
So I think when you look at Brash as a brewery, we look a lot more mature. Well, not mature is the wrong word. No. Mature in a sense of how we relate to the beer community. So the perception of Brash becomes that we're a lot older than we really are because of his experience, because of the quality of beer that he can guarantee, because he has 16 years experience under his belt.
Yeah.
That's not every startup brewery,
No,
so.
and y'all so kind of a dual lineage here. One with Petrol Station, and then the Brash as it was up in, was it in Maryland or was it?
It was up in Massachusetts.
Okay, same thing. Close enough, right?
Yeah.
From here,
East
it's like
Coast.
all that up there.
Not
Texas, not somewhere north of Oklahoma. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then Vince, you were at St. Arnold for forever.
12, 13 years.
Yeah, and I mean for that in this city, the top bar and the top brewery, and then you come together with like this super twins, Wonder Power kind of thing.
I don't think we put that much thought into it. It was more, everybody in the beer community kind of knows each other a little bit. And then when I started planning Brash, you start thinking about people who are a good fit or who you see something, and I knew Vince, and I knew having conversations with him.
Spent many nights,
at my
probably
bar.
a lot longer than I should.
Our history has some sorted, he's been pulled out of some bushes and some other stuff. And
ping pong tables destroyed.
Yeah, we actually ended up hanging out one night way before this when we went to Andy's and all that. And I left these guys. It was all the guys from St. Arnold. I saw them at Michael Harris, the former head brewer at St. Arnold, that's
now at Oscar Blues. Yeah.
I saw his wedding party was at Warren's at like 1 o'clock in the morning, which is never good ever. Nothing good comes at closing at Warren's for me personally. And I saw these guys, and they end up coming back to my bar for a little while, and then we end up at Andy's in the Heights at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I leave these guys on a bench out front at like 6 in the morning.
Remember Captain Steubing was supposed to get and he was supposed to fly back to Japan.
Michael Harris's wife, her brother is a military guy, and he was wearing like his full military, like, you know, nice outfit for the wedding. And we were just calling him Captain Steubing, and we got this guy trashed as anything. He missed his flight. And, you know, so I think Vince kind of knew what he was getting into with jumping on board with this. And I think the ease of, like, you know, there was a comfortableness when we first met talking about this stuff. And even I sent him a message and said, hey, we can talk about all this now, right?
Yeah,
you know?
it's all done.
You know, I had said, you know, are you interested in talking? And he put, talking about what? And I'm like, well, beer. And he just kind of sent me a message back like, I always love talking about beer. So we met up at an undisclosed location because I think we were worried about being seen together or something, you know. So we met at Brick House Tavern on 290 because we figured nobody would ever know who the fuck either one of us was.
None of the craft beer people that we knew were going to show up.
It wasn't going to look weird that we were like, you know, having a serious discussion somewhere. But my favorite part of the story is like he, you know, at the time he worked at St. Arnold. And he ordered St. Arnold beer, and the waitress just, she brought him the wrong beer. And he told her, you know, hey, this isn't what I ordered. And she argued with him, but he is wearing full St. Arnold everything, like hat.
She's like, I've worked here for 3 months. You don't understand. I know the beer.
Yeah, and they were pouring that same Melissa cast from like 5 years ago. The same engine, you know. Just, craft beer is weird, you know. It's kind of, there's been an evolution over the years, but it also got so sort of, you know, I don't want to say like bland, you know what I'm saying? Like, craft beer was very sort of specific, and as it got bigger and people got into it for different reasons, you know, I always feel like the original guys, like talking about Ken Grossman, these are people who never really thought about maybe one day this is going to make me a lot of money. You know, it was more like, I want to make beers and put them in people's hands, and I don't want to have like a job where I wear a tie and shit. So to go from that to everybody making the same kind of beers and everybody chasing the same shit, I mean, you're talking about an industry that was built on people going the opposite of that.
Or maybe, you know, former craft brewers telling you need to worry about wine and spirits and not other craft brewers.
Right, where you have guys like Wicked Weeds saying, you know, we're not the enemy, we're, you know, it's spirits that are the enemy. I'm like, really not, because they give us fucking awesome barrels, and that's a better partnership than somebody like, you know, if Wicked Weed is in AB's portfolio, these are specifically designed to block out small breweries. I don't see why it's not clear that Budweiser's whole goal all along has been to kill small breweries. They used to do it in the 90s. They buy them and shut them down. I mean, look at what happened with Celis. It's the same shit. So, you know, they've been trying to do it. You see the evolution, like, as somebody who lived through craft beer in the 90s, and that was when I started really getting into drinking, you know, as Shiner became a thing, and Fat Tire, and you were open to this whole world of beers that you never really realized. You know, I think it just kind of got sort of watered down over time. And when I hear breweries talking about, you know, we got to make a New England IPA so that we can make the other stuff we want because, you know, that's the moneymaker. I'm like, those beers are expensive to make. I mean, there's a bunch of them, and, you know, they're not all great. Some of them are. But since when do we start chasing the same everybody? You know?
I don't know.
Once people stop pushing that envelope, which is what craft beer's always been about, you know, you see that creativity die, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I do see with Houston breweries, especially, you know, there's definitely personalities to all the different breweries. You guys, I mean, have an obvious.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
You don't want all the same people doing the same shit. That's why you look at guys like Jester King, who, no matter what you think about the process, they're doing whatever the fuck they want to do. And when I met those guys, and I met Jeff Stuffing, and he described to me what he was going to do before they opened, I'm like, you're fucking crazy, dude. You're talking about steeped in tradition, shit that Cantillon and even guys in you know, Portland like Cascade that have a lot of experience under their belt. You know, even Cascade was a very small brewery that a lot of people didn't know about at that time. And when Jeff is pitching this, not pitching it to me, they were already on the roll, but when he's telling me about it, and I'm like, dude, you're talking about 750 milliliter bottles of beer that tastes like, horse blanket and all these, barnyard flavors and funk and whatever else, and you expect people to pop them open in 100 degrees and drink a, giant bottle by themselves? I'm like, you're fucking crazy, dude. Mm-hmm. And then you saw what they started with, black metal. Mm-hmm. And Witchmaker, which got a lot of traction because people in Texas were like, oh shit, somebody's making some beers. Uh-huh. And then to flip your model right away and be like, this was always our goal, was to do these sort of farmhouse beers. I mean, they were way before their time. Like, I mean, these are the guys you want making beer. And no matter what you think about them or how you like them or not, they're pushing an envelope that craft beer is always supposed to be about.
Yeah. And, well, when you look at a spectrum of flavors and styles and things like that, I think you guys are kind of... Well, you're almost at such different ends of the spectrum that you almost, touch on that backside.
I think the main philosophy is the same.
Yeah.
The end product is 100% different.
Yeah.
So yeah, we make 100% different, but what we're grounded in and what we're rooted in is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a lot more artisan than we feel, but I mean, it's not that we're not artisan. It's just we don't wear it on our sleeve like they do.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about with him. The beers that he's able to produce are. It's mind-blowing, the stuff that, for a 2-year-old brewery, when you taste Hammer Smash Face, or you taste Milk the Venom, or you taste Puzzalaya, or even stuff that, we didn't necessarily have an interest in making at first, but as we became an older brewery, not super old, but 2 years, to make Project Mayhem and be like, for us, this is really exciting. These are uncharted territories for us. This is us flexing our muscles a little bit and saying, we can do other stuff, and we're interested in doing other stuff, and we talk about mixed culture and open fermentation and shit like that as something we might do down the road. So, we're not closing our doors to all kinds of possibilities. There's more chance of us making that than making a New England IPA or making some of the other stuff that you're seeing being made.
Yeah.
Because I think you got to keep on pushing that, and what's happening is this craft beer is becoming about nothing but money. When you talk about barrels and you talk about some of the stuff that's time consuming, it doesn't make sense on paper. It doesn't make sense financially. Yeah. And when you're talking about Jester King being able to sell 4,000 bottles in an afternoon, that's highly profitable. But to capture that model, that's not everybody, You have to be doing it right. Like they did it right.
And it's risky too, because if it goes wrong somewhere along the way, that's all that time spent.
Right. There ain't a lot of backtracking from Jester King can't all of a sudden go, well, we're done with this and let's go back. They're committed to that now unless they scrap everything and start fresh. And I don't think that's their goal. They seem to go further the other way.
Yeah.
And I think as somebody into beer, you have to have a lot of respect for other people doing it because you're going to get ideas from people or it's going to help push you in a direction that you never thought you were going to go. For us, we don't want to come to work and be like, I could do anything if I want to be bored out of my mind every day.
There's a lot of options there.
Yeah, this is a rare industry. This is, you get to... For us, we got invited to Decibel Magazine in Philly to pour beer at a metal festival. This for us is something that, number one, we feel we don't deserve yet because we've only been around 2 years, So it's crazy flattering. It's when I got that email, I sent it back like, hey, man, I think you got the wrong brewery. I think maybe you meant to type something else in. Maybe spelled the name, Ben Franklin or something. I don't know. They're like, no, we want you. We want you guys. I'm like, how the fuck do you even know who we are at this point, So...
That's pretty cool. How far out do y'all distribute? Is it just local here in Houston area? Or?
Mainly, yes. 90% of our stuff stays here.
Okay.
And then whatever doesn't, because with Benny Keith, our distributor, we're statewide.
Okay.
Distribution is what we signed our deal with.
Anything outside of Texas, though?
No. And we get asked lately, which is weird. We get distributors from outside of Texas asking us, but. You got to look at craft beer and the roots of craft beer, and it depends what your goal is in life. And for us, our goal isn't to be that, We don't want to be on a shelf somewhere with dust on our product or, it was never meant to be like that. Like, as a consumer, you want to know what we're giving you is the highest quality, freshest beer that you could possibly get. That's why you buy craft beer. There's a premium attached to it.
How does that work with like a one-off, like for the festival, like where they want you to come pour beers? Is that
there's special licensing to do that kind of stuff?
Okay, for a one-off.
At least in those states. Not in Texas.
Not Texas. Texas is the one that doesn't do that. Everybody else, you can do special event type stuff.
Okay.
And then you send one-way kegs or however you want to deal with it. So, this is specifically for that event.
I think that's better in the long, like just one for the quality of the beer, but two, I mean, when you can go get something at the grocery store down the street, it's like it's not special anymore. But when you can get, when it's something that you come across and like, oh, this is the only time I get to try this beer.
That's the great thing about where craft beer's at now is like, look at what the enthusiasm is for. The enthusiasm is for local.
Yeah.
It's old. Yeah. That are IPAs. Why would I pay $10 or $12 for a 6-pack of that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the coolest. Like even here in just the Houston area, I live in Cypress, so as far as like a local brewery, we're getting some. There's a couple of people trying to.
Limbelow, you got a Limbelow out there, right?
Yeah, that's over 290 or 249. I'm at 290, so it's like that's even 20 minutes away, or
Yeah.
But there's some little guys starting to build up little breweries out there, but going to different parts of town, like you go to Katy and there's no label, and come down here into the city, which I don't get to do every day, but when I do, it's like, all right, which brewery do I get to?
Well, look at No Label adapting to the change in climate. They switched to brew pub license.
Yeah.
They realized everything had to become more internalized. They realized like having people on site is great, you know, and they've been doing it forever. When you have 1,000 people show up to your tour, you might want to capitalize on that.
It's also kind of taking a little bit of control back. I
think it's taking a lot of control back, and that's why people ask us, like, why don't you put your shit on the shelves? There's 400 beers on the shelves.
Yeah.
So if you want it, we can sell it to you from here. And that way, when our bartender hands you a 4-pack or a bottle or whatever, that was what it was intended to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it's not sat in the hot sun. We know it's not been taken care of correctly. We know exactly what happened to it, and chances are it was just packaged a day or two before you got it.
Yeah.
As a consumer, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It means the money you spent on it was worth it.
So, Vince, completely left turn, but when you made the transition from St. Arnold, which they make fantastic beers, you made fantastic beers and then what was it? Just an evolution of your brewing skills and just what you wanted in life that made you say, you know what, I'm going to go from this well-established, awesome brewery and do this
shit show clown car.
This thing is totally unknown. Was it just time to make the change and just to try this new awesome thing?
I think if you were to talk to Brock and me together, we would both say it was time for me to make a change. Part of it was Ben allows me a lot more creativity to put out things that I've wanted to try. And working with Ben, who has an amazing palate and comes up with recipes and thoughts on different beers all the time, it challenges me to come up with a way to actually, bring that to, an actual beer.
Yeah.
I think that's been the coolest thing to see with Brash is like what I do to him is basically imagine having a 4,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, and I have it in the box and I just dump it on his desk and I'm like, figure out how that shit works. And then he's able to do it and put more in. It's like, and then when I would come back and I'd be like, well, I only gave you 4,000 pieces and now we have 5,800 pieces. Because he's able to take it to that level. He's able to take it further than I can imagine it. And he never stops where he's like, we can make it better, we can make it better. For the consumer, that's awesome. That means that we're constantly striving to give you the best experience. Because he's relentless about it.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of went back and forth where he would say, oh, that's great. And I'd be like, but I think it could be better. Yeah. And then I would get to the point where I'm like, no, that's fucking perfect. And he's like, no, we can make it better.
Yeah.
So, we've tweaked things along the line and we've figured out better ways to do things. And, he's always reading about new ways to do something. So we try it. And, whether it be dry hopping warm, dry hopping cold, different process, whatever, to get the best result out of it. The one I always do to him is push, 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 where I'm like, more. Even, we just made Prestige for Why, which is a beer that we can't really get the hops for. So Galaxy is super hard to find.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough that a friend brewery of ours hooked us up with enough to make what we wanted. But when we were talking about how much we need, and I'm like, well, let's double dry hop it. And he's like, and I'm like, let's just do it. But then he comes back and says, hey, let's change this in the front to this, and we've already seen it in other beers do what we want it to do. Let's try it out. And then I take that as, well, you're changing shit, so let's add more. Let's get more in there. But then it'll get to a point where we're like, well, we need to back that out a little bit. He took it too far. So I think after 2 years, we're pretty in tune with you know, where our beers are at that we have already, and then we've been talking about crazy shit lately. Where I'll throw him an idea, where when we started 2 years ago, he would have been like, "Oof." Now he's like, well, how do I do this?
Yeah.
So then, you know, I'm giving him a task where I'm like, nobody I know has done this. How the fuck do you make it work? And I don't have the skills to do that. He does. But then he can come back and we can discuss it out. So, you know, we talk about a lot of stuff before anything gets made. But then the whole process has to start from, you know, test batch and all the way through final product. I mean, you know, I think it comes back to the consumer. As a consumer, you want to know that we put some effort into it, you know?
When y'all are doing those test batches, how big of a batch is a
5 gallons.
Just a 5 gallon, and you scale it right up to.
It's not like a 5 gallons and just scale it right up. You know, there's a lot of generally speaking, the first time you're not going to get it dead on how you want it, but we get close enough to where it's not a drain pour or anything. We get pretty close, and the longer I know this brew system, the easier it is for me to get it scaled.
Was there at any point where you all were just like, one of y'all just said, "Fuck no, we're not"? It's like we're not going there, or has it always been something?
We never got to that point.
No,
not yet.
I think it's a challenge where you're like, you know, is this possible? Can we? And I've given him a lot of that. Like right from the beginning, I was like, this is my idea. How do you make it work? And he would say, I don't know if you can. And then he would come back all excited a day later and be like, no, I think I figured this shit out. You can actually do this. And then when you see it in actuality, you're like, holy fuck, dude. Yeah. Because some of the test batches we made, when we gave them to people, they were like, you can't do this production.
Yeah.
There's no way. And people were writing comments like on Untapped, they were tapping in the beers and saying, too bad they can't make this, even before we tried it.
Yeah.
And then we made it, and people were like, oh shit, how did they do that?
Yeah.
There's very few things we don't talk about, but there's a couple processes here that we've come up with where, we kind of, you know, that's in our playbook now, and we don't want to share them with anybody.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool that both of us have a healthy respect for what each of us bring to the table. So, and I think we push each other to actually make sure, because, I mean, he comes with the flavor profiles that are, I don't know how this works. And then I have the relentless pursuit to make sure that this thing gets done, and then we continue on to make sure that we get it exactly how we envisioned it.
Well, it's definitely got easier, too, as we work together, because I think at first, you know, it's like trying to jam a square peg through a round hole where, you can hit it hard enough with a hammer, it'll go through, and that's what we were doing for maybe the first 6 months.
Coming from a very structured St. Arnold system to something that was a little more freewheeling, it took a little while for us to actually get to the point to where, you know, now there are times that before I even say something, he's already thinking it. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Yeah.
I think because at first it was like, well, you can't even put that much grain in a mash because it's not going to work. And you're like, well, let's see how it goes, and we'll try it. It's going to get stuck. I'm like, well, let's figure it out. As, you know, sometimes making mistakes is how you learn. So
there are fewer no's from me, I think, now.
Now, definitely. Yeah. Which is, like I was saying, it's weird because normally now I'm like, well, I don't know. And he's like, no. So he's kind of been the one pushing sometimes where I found myself kind of, you know, I've even said stuff like, well, let's put less hops in that, where he's like...
That's a rare occasion. But
it is rare. Because like I said last week, I'm like, nah, we can take prestige to the
How can less be more? That's impossible.
That was my philosophy at first. Like, less is more doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, less is less. More is more. But I think there's a saturation point where, you probably need to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, well, I don't know about him, but I feel like I'm constantly learning. So, you know, like when you learn, you're able to reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And make it better and better and better and better.
Just from observation, it seems like it's a good analogy, like kind of in a band. You know, you've played in this one band that was really successful, and then y'all came together. You have to kind of figure out each other's musical style.
Yeah.
You know, how you do it, and it takes a little while to not only, you know, you both get better as musicians, but then also as playing as a unit.
Where he came from, I mean, St. Arnold is very structured. These are very, you know, Brock's very big on balance of beer, very, you know, a very sort of pump the brakes mentality until recently, where you see him kind of, he's not pumping the brakes as much, and you're seeing them put out a lot of stuff that's really gel with the public. Don't like New England IPAs. There are a ton of people who do. And for them to sort of get traction with that, or, you know, like, people are defining who they're going to be. You got guys like Copperhead out in Conroe doing what he's doing, and then B-52 out there too, and Southern Star anchoring it. And, you know, I went to Galveston Island, fucking awesome place, man. Cool people, beers were great. I mean, but they got a playground, and there's people playing banjos and shit. That's when you come here, you get a total different experience, you know. But that's cool. I don't want to go to the same place and see the same shit every single time. You know, how many clinical-looking breweries can you go to that look exactly the same?
Yeah.
I mean, is that where we want to end up?
You know? Yeah, I'll say that for Houston. I haven't walked doing this podcast. I haven't walked into a brewery like, have we been here before? And like had to take a double take, you know, to say. No, I mean they all have their own personality, and so it's.
I think here, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, go around. You know, that's cool. It's cool to be able to get on your bike and hit like 10 breweries in Houston. I mean, who imagined it would ever be like that?
I know, and like for the next 2 weeks while the weather will allow it, you could do it.
Yeah. You can get on your bike, dude.
Yeah.
Get out there.
Kennedy, you've been real talkative over there. Speaking of B-50,
he's looking at porn over there.
Yeah, is that what?
I can see it in his glasses.
What are you looking at? What?
No, I've been like trying to stream and I keep hitting the wrong buttons and knocking us off.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I'm doing a really good
How
job.
was B-52? You were there. What's that yesterday?
Before we get into that, I do have a question from one of the viewers. Your thoughts on people getting on eBay and reselling your beer?
Are people really watching this right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one guy.
Well, I mean, they were, but I kept hitting the wrong button.
I really hope if he's jerking off right now, too.
People could be doing that.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Your thoughts on people reselling your beers on eBay for a huge profit?
I mean, we've made this statement about seeing it before, and people are like, well, I bought it, I should be able to do it. Yes, you purchased it. You should be able to do whatever the fuck you want. It is your beer at that point. The problem is when I don't have a problem with somebody buying our beer and trading up north to get stuff that they want. That's flattering for us as a brewery that our beer trades, and even our glassware, which is crazy to me. I mean, we've seen our glasses for $195 on eBay selling.
Yeah.
I could probably make you one cheaper, if you really want one. And I think that's been our philosophy is like, there's no need for that. My problem is people buying our shit, especially when we put limits on it because it's going, like, what people understand is we're small.
Yeah.
So if we make a pallet of bottles, that took us a long time because we're doing them 2 at a time by hand. We can only make so much, and even our system only allows us to make so much beer. And because people have gravitated towards what we're selling, which is flattering and awesome, we can only make so much of it and give to the public. When you come and you buy that and you put it on eBay for $35, you kind of defeated the whole purpose of us making it because it wasn't meant to be like that, you know. And if you look at our marketing on our bottles, we pretty much stripped everything off, you know. I had some guy like, oh, Abide is the brewery, you know. He was being an ass, but you know, Abide is the brewery. Well, no, but you bought it here, so
you know it's
put
ours.
it on a fucking shelf. I don't expect you to like go to a store and recognize it. You came here and purchased it, so we don't need to write our name on it. We're a brew pub. Like, we could write, you know, fuck you dickhead on it and put,
will they allow that? Is that?
I mean, we can put whatever we want. We can fill the labels with, you know, dicks flying through the sky or whatever we wanted.
A picture of our tables.
Anything, you know. So as a brew pub, you have that right, but we understand that people. That's what I'm saying. The quality we gave to them, we knew what that was because you're coming here. It's how craft beer really was supposed to be. We don't need to put it in stores and shit like that.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're gonna turn around and sell it on eBay, you have every right to do that as a consumer. You stood in line, you purchased it. But what's the point?
Yeah.
You know?
The spirit of it is you're missing it.
It's almost like you're holding the beer ransom for you know to get something else.
To me, it's almost like I equate it to like trading cards, you know, baseball cards or something. You know, it's not meant to be that. It's meant to be taken home, or you can even just drink it. I mean, it's not a commodity in the sense that, you know, it's going to go up in value because of its rarity or whatever. It should be consumed.
Well, it's just bad for the industry altogether, you know? Like, you don't want beer, like, it's the same thing as scalping tickets. How frustrating is it that you can't get to a concert because some jackass or company buys 400 tickets and then resells them for 5 times what they're worth?
Yeah.
That means automatically that concert sells out, automatically, and that's what happens with beers. They sell faster than they should, which is great for the brewery, but in the long run, is it great for the brewery?
Yeah.
And a lot of it too is reputation. You know, if your beers can pull $30, then I guess you're doing something right. But at the same time, like the value of that 6-pack is not $30.
Yeah. And the person that's selling it for that, would you really want to buy from that type of person?
No, and if you're trying to get rich making, you know, we sold it for 12, so how much are you really making on it?
It's a lot of effort.
Is that worth the effort that you're putting into doing that?
Yeah.
You know, I think, like, when you see stuff trade, yeah, as a brewer, it's kind of flattering where you're like, holy shit, a Hammer Smash Face went for, you know, Tired Hands and Alchemist and whatever else.
Yeah.
It's flattering in a lot of ways, but we made it to be drank.
Yeah. Well, speak on your brewery here. It's tucked back away behind these brand new townhomes. Yeah, I thought about some. I was listening to another interview you guys did, and you were talking about your sign. You're considered a projector, like just on the side, like.
Oh, we got a sign now.
Yeah, but like
the
a
little
huge,
bitty one?
like a huge, just projector, like, and then they can't tell you to not do it.
I think part of it is we like being hard to find in a little way.
Okay.
You know, like I think it goes with who we are.
Kind of a speakeasy aspect to it,
Sort
to
of.
where
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, you know, if you know us, and it's part of being local too. If you live here, you probably know where we're at.
Yes.
Or somebody's told you or brought you here. I mean, the original St. Arnold was not easy to find.
No, it wasn't.
And there was no sign or instructions on how to get there, but how good did you feel when you pulled up at that tour and you're like, oh, there's 800 people here.
Yeah.
I can fucking hang out and have a good time. It felt good, you know, and I don't think it was meant to be something that was super easy to find, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
My 7-year-old nephew loves coming here,
Really?
playing the video games.
You know, we get asked about that. Can I bring my kids here?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking bring your kids.
He
We're not
loves
your,
here.
We're not the parents of your children.
Yeah.
I understand you're at a bar, and if you hear some fucked up shit, or your kid does, like, don't get mad at us. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not here to parent.
What game does he like? What's this?
Oh, I told you this story.
Yeah.
I guess I can tell you guys. So I taught him Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he's 7.
Nice.
And so then I started playing Johnny Cage against him and did nothing but, like, nut shots.
Oh, that's cheating, dude.
like the entire game. And then I taught him how to do it.
Has he beat you yet?
I let him win.
Okay, so
Yeah.
like my dad, he used to take me bowling because he could beat me at bowling because I was a kid. And then when I turned 14, I beat him at bowling one time, and we never went bowling ever again.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
sad. That is sad.
Yeah, it was super sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't talk to him anymore.
Have you
Maybe-
considered putting in a couple lanes here just to?
You know, we actually talked about it. It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
We talked about putting a movie theater in here. We
Yeah.
talked about putting bowling lane, skee ball, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think as you come to Brashland, you want it to evolve over time where, you know, you want to know that with the money you're spending on beer that we're putting back into making this place better. And it's no secret that this place is a shithole. But it has charm. It's
Yeah,
a
it does.
charming shithole. But yeah, like, we have definite plans to like keep on improving it, and I think if you look at pictures of here from when we started to today, yeah, there's definitely been an evolution of both sides, the brewery and the Brashland part.
Do you have a favorite arcade game? Either one of y'all have a
I do, yeah.
what?
I'm a big Burger Time person, man. I actually had a bartender who, when we started, I set the Burger Time high score, and it was ridiculous. And this fucker sat there for. He was supposed to be bartending. Every time I came in, he had a bar stool sitting at Burger Time trying to beat my high score. And he would beat it, and I would come in, I'd put 2 quarters in, and I'd beat his top score until I was like, why am I doing this, man? I'm basically like convincing this guy to not work and sit playing Burger Time while I pay him hourly to do it. So I don't even really play that anymore. But
Yeah.
I like the Pac-Man 4 player.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I like Donkey Kong
that
Jr.
That one's the shit.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Jr. is probably the one I.
Yeah, that's it. He's good at that one.
Or Joust.
Yeah, I wanted Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Would be fucking cool. People are like Dragon's Lair. I'm like, this is the fucking stupidest game from the 80s. Like, left, right, button, button, button.
Yeah.
Step back, let's watch it go by itself. I'm like, there's no way it's doing anything I fucking put on.
You guys watch Stranger Things?
Yeah, they
But-
just. I saw
I
that.
watched
Because,
the,
yeah.
the first episode.
They had a big Dragon's Lair thing.
You know what sucks about the
Yeah.
the new Stranger? How
Don't-
much 80s pandering can you take? Man?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the nostalgia,
It is- yeah.
like yanking at the old nostalgia on that. And to me, the second season was more of the first. You should watch Mindhunter. That's way better.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the serial killer?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Fucking
a
Yeah.
couple, few
Yeah.
episodes into that. That's
It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
It's like the best show to Go on Netflix.
What's the real tall the first serial
Kemper, dude.
Yeah, that's
read about that guy, and some of the shit that happens in there is like straight up from his interviews.
Yeah,
the actor who played him, crazy.
Yeah, you can watch all the actual interviews. They're all on YouTube.
Really?
Like the
Well,
original.
these guys joke that every time I get hooked on us watching something, then we're gonna get a beer named after it.
I don't know.
It's not that far from the truth, but we're not gonna see a Mindhunter beer yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends what season 2.
You could do a whole series. You could do a whole series on all the serial killers.
That's the fascinating part about that show is everything is real.
Yeah.
So
Because they showed the BTK guy right at the beginning there.
Yeah, I've heard like the interviews with Kemper were like actual from the transcripts.
It's actual. I watched him. Like I went back and watched some of his real ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy nailed that. He's creepy as shit.
Yeah.
The way he talks about, like, the shit he's talking about is heinous, but the nonchalantness of him talking about it, and he's self-realizing about how, like, much of a monster he is.
Uh-huh.
And if you watch his real interviews, he talks about, like, the whole time he was just trying to kill his mom. But he couldn't do it, so he's killing these young co-eds and his grandmother and whatever else, and finally he was like, he started picking up girls and not killing them just to see if he could control himself, and then realized, I just got to kill my mom, and then this shit's over with. And he turned himself in.
Jeez.
Yeah, fucking crazy, dude. How do you... Where's your mind at that point? But he's crazy, like a crazy intelligent, 145 IQ and all that shit.
Yeah.
He was like, I could have done it forever, and nobody would ever caught me.
Mm-hmm. Which, makes you think they're like, what, they say like 45 or to 70 of those guys out there.
His parole, he's like, I don't want parole. I shouldn't be in society.
Yeah.
No, when he said what his punishment should be.
Death by torture.
Death by torture is what he said.
And in California, it was on hiatus with the death penalties when he said that. And I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think he wanted them to electrocute him like a few times. Like, what's the Green Mile where they forget to put the wet rag on your head?
Boil
keep on charring them up.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I wonder what that smells like. It's probably
terrible.
Probably horrible.
Barbecue.
Maybe like a Chick-fil-A. It tasted like chicken.
If it's that spicy chicken.
So I have another question, way off topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mindhunter isn't way off topic.
Well, way off topic for Mindhunter.
Oh.
Is there some kind of connection between you guys and like the local skate scene, like old school skate? Because I know you have like the Easy 7.
I mean, I think because like we're of that generation, maybe.
Yeah.
And we were both into skateboarding, and Easy 7 was his idea, and then we had a customer who was like, "That was my homebrew. How dare you?" I'm like, "Well, were you planning on production that sometime soon?"
I want to clarify.
Yeah.
We were both into skateboarding. It's not saying that we're both good at
Oh
skateboarding.
no! Yeah. We're terrible at skateboarding.
Yeah.
You're the kid probably, or I know I was. I was the kid walking around the skateboard, more than riding for sure. Now, like I have a 13-year-old who got into skateboarding and went to Surf House, and I got him like a badass Tony Hawk skateboard, and we went out there and. At Easy 7, the city part of it, they have the half pipe, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, totally, at 42, I think this is my goal is to drop into this thing. And I get out there with him, and I can get up pretty high on it, but
oh man,
I'm way too old for this.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big skater back in the early '90s.
I think as you get older, you're like, I don't want to break my bones.
Well, he
I got back into it around 42.
Really?
And made it like 2 years, and then
broke a bone.
I didn't break it. Well, I like tore my ACL and meniscus and stuff.
End up with bulbs on your
I mean, like
elbows
they
and
opened
stuff.
that big skate park. The spring
Jamaica?
skate park. No, the spring skate park.
That one's the largest one in North
Yeah,
America.
and so they were opening that one. I'm like, oh, this sucks. I want to get back into it. So it lasted about almost 2 years, and until I like really hurt myself, and I'm like, that's it.
I think you
I'm
get
done.
Out there, you feel pretty good, and then you see like a bunch of young kids, and especially down at Easy 7, you see kids like flying through the sky and shit, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go sit on this bench right here.
Yeah, y'all are both tall though. How tall are you?
I'm 6'5"-ish.
Yeah. How tall are you? You're
Yeah, 6'3".
Doesn't your center of gravity change as you get older too?
It's all. I mean, I've been the same height since high school.
Yeah,
Hunch a lot more. It's harder though now, right?
Well, I mean, I've weigh a little bit more than I did back then. I mean, it's all to me. It was all muscle memory.
Okay.
I mean, when I got back into it, I was never that good.
Well,
but
a lot of skateboarding is not being afraid that you're gonna fucking kill yourself. So, I think as you get older, you're more conscious of the fact that you don't want to.
You can see 3 steps ahead, and you're like, oh no.
Well, like if you're talking about you pull your ACL, you're talking about for every aspect of your life, you just made it harder.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're 14, you're like, oh, I get to stay home in bed now, or like I got a cool cast on my leg. Well, a cast's not cool when you're fucking 42.
Yeah.
This becomes like a hindrance for your life.
Yeah, because you still got to do all that shit. Like be
Yeah,
a
I still
parent.
have a
And
couple buddies my age, and they still go out and skate, and they keep
Yeah.
it. Hey, let's go
are
skate.
they
I'm like,
married or have
shit, no.
kids?
Yeah, they have kids too.
No.
Like, no, shit, no.
Yeah, we have a bunch of old guys who get out there and still get after it.
Yeah,
They go to Turkey Jam. They have a whole category for older guys who are doing it.
Yeah, at the park, like we would always go early before all the kids would wake up.
Yeah.
And lots of guys our age, lots of them out there.
My
skating.
favorite is the hobos in the woods smoking crack and shit, dude. I think
Yeah,
it's good
yeah,
for the
that's-
environment over there sometimes.
I mean, it's always been like that. Like I used to go there when I was, 19,
I think
20.
you see it and you're like, oh, he's shooting heroin in the
Yeah.
woods over there.
Yeah.
Son, look the other way.
And then the prostitutes.
There's
Those were fun.
You can learn a lot of life lessons from a prostitute.
There's sketchy
That's
people out there.
some wisdom.
Very
there.
sketchy.
Like, this is a good neighborhood. It is
Yeah.
a good neighborhood, but it's weird that exists there.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we need to talk future? Like, is that? I always ask the like, what's in the future for Brash? But I mean, like, what's in the near future? What do you?
We've been talking with ABI lately, so hopefully that goes through pretty good. And then we're going to go on vacation with that douchebag from Wicked Weed. And, maybe Carbuncle hire us. And,
Yeah.
That's about it for us.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I don't think we don't think too far into the future.
It's our next we think on our next promo.
We think about what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So, as far as us,
Black Masses.
we have Black Masses coming out. We're going to bottle MTV again. And, we've been big into buying barrels lately with no purpose almost.
Yeah. What kind of barrels?
Anything
we got some
that
cool
he
stuff
finds that he comes to me and is like, what do you think about peach brandy barrels? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. But with I think at this point we don't, we looked at Firestone Walker and how they do stuff to kind of start putting stuff in barrels and thinking about not you put it in a barrel and that's the beer. It's okay, let's pull some off of this batch, put it in a barrel and set it aside and we'll taste it. And as it progresses, let's start thinking about what, as far as an element in a beer, how can we use this while we blend it with other stuff and make it more complex. This is interesting for us, So to buy some brandy barrels, we bought cinnamon vanilla, we bought maple whiskey, we bought cognac, we bought, all kinds of shit. This, as somebody who drinks our beer, these are going to be exciting whenever we fucking figure out what the fuck we're going to do with them. But some of them we have plans with, like obviously we have Firewalker coming out, which is, we like the name because it's, it's MTV is the base of the beer, and it's the Venomous Maximus collaboration, so that's one of their songs.
MTV is Milk the Venom.
Right.
Yeah,
Just making sure.
But to have that tie to Venomous Maximus and Firewalker's obviously close to Firestone Walker. This is somebody we looked at. Like, if you're gonna look at barrel programs, there isn't probably anybody better. We'd like to learn. We'd like to do some shit with it. We talked about making, shit that we're not normally making and putting in barrels. And, even Project Mayhem, we talked about gin barrels and stuff for
Yeah.
it. So, you're going to see us do some shit. But I think as a brewery, we're 2 years old. So it gives us a little bit of time to kind of figure some shit out. And we're still nailing down recipes and thinking of new stuff. And, we're both big Firestone Walker fans. So, he came to me and said, I miss Wookie Jack. I'm like, I do too. Let's fucking make it. So we're gonna make something close to a Wookie Jack.
Was that their double IPA?
It was the rye black
rye IPA.
double.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was their double? My wife.
That was
Double Jack.
Double Jack, yeah.
and they got rid of these
Yeah.
beers, and you're like, these are world class beers.
Yeah.
And then and they do a good job with their more fruity IPAs. But it's the same thing to see 20-year-old breweries following suit with young breweries is weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are innovators. When you see Stone following in line with new breweries,
Yeah.
it's a little weird,
Yeah. It's like the old guy trying to hang with the college kid.
A little bit, and you see like some of the artwork and stuff, and you're like, it's weird for a brewery that was so defined and so well established.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened with Greg stepping down and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, I have a long relationship with Stone,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the beers they've made in the past, but you know, all the shit I really love, they got rid of. So,
Yeah.
you know, they got rid of Ruination the way it used to be.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think you're supposed to have I don't know what the minimal amount is, but kind of a disdain for the younger generation a little bit. It's
Is
like,
that what it is?
I think you're supposed to, like, as an old, you know, it's like your music's not as good as ours, you know, or whatever. It's like, you know.
Like we're the hackneyed version of them. Or,
Yeah.
And look at Brash. I mean, Brash is very rooted in like Stone sort of original mentality. You know, I'm not saying, you know, we're that much like them, but as far as some of the beers we've made, I mean, making super aggressive beers and being relentless about it and being unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Stone cornered that market in the 90s. Think about us in the 90s, we would have closed down already. I mean, the abrasiveness and what we're trying to do, the market would have never been anywhere near that. We might have had a really cult following, but yeah, it would have never gelled.
Yeah, no.
You know, and do you want to make shit that you don't want to make? That's, you know, at that point, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I respect that so much about what y'all are doing here. It's just it's yours.
Yeah,
you know,
I
and
think
you
we realize
100%.
not everybody's gonna like what we're doing, and we're okay with that.
Sometimes it hurts though.
You know, like, are you gonna read every review and everything that everybody has to say about something? I mean, think about how much stuff that you like that some other person thinks is terrible. I mean, that's subjective. So, you know, how are you going to possibly capture everybody?
Yeah.
Because if you make a Pilsner, yeah, tons of people drink Pilsners, but, you know, the beer nerd is going to say it's terrible no matter how great it is unless Russian River made it or somebody.
Right.
So, you know, is that your reason for making beer? Or are you tasting your beers and making them the best possible beers that you can possibly make as far as, you know, it's very internal. When we make beers, we want to make sure that it's what we want to make, and we want to make sure that that quality is... Your beer is only as good as the recipe. You want to take that recipe to the fullest extent of how good you can make that. That's why we do test batch. That's why we do reevaluate. Like he's talking about scale up. Scale up is not an exact science. So there's a lot of, okay, well, this is what happened when we scaled it up, so now we have to adjust a couple things back down, and there's a few batches of doing it that take that, you know. And when we make a beer like Project Mayhem, when we see it right off the bat, like, there was so much theoretical with Project Mayhem that we didn't know what it was going to taste like, and there was no way to test batch it on a small scale. And then you taste it, and you're like, holy fuck. And I was looking at him like, shit, you really just pulled this off. This is crazy good. And, you know, nobody expected us to make a beer like that.
Yeah.
But that's fun for us. Like, we want to have some fun with this shit.
Y'all are making some spectacular beers. Well, we had, was Cortado?
Yes.
This past
Last
Thursday, on Liquid Lunch.
We haven't made that one in a while.
Yeah.
It was. I got a crowler in like May.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did it hold up?
Yeah, it was good.
That was really good.
I think for us, we stress like, you know, don't hang on to our beers. We're, you know, because even when we do barrel aged shit, we blend back. We want you to remember that it's beer.
Yeah.
You know, if I want black whiskey, I could go buy whiskey and put, you know, a splash of beer in it or some shit and make it look black. But you know, you want it to have those beer characteristics, and that's why if I give you a bottle of Hammer Smash Face from this year, we want it to taste like that right now. If you start, you know, aging that beer out, then elements of it are going to fall off that we didn't want to fall off. You know, we don't want a fusel alcohol taste to it.
Yeah.
You know, bodies get thin when you age them out.
Don't hoard your crowlers anymore. Bring them over for.
I think there's
drink.
a sweet spot in there somewhere. May is pretty good. 6 months is about as far as you want to take one of our stuff.
It was still really good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I've been looking for a good excuse to drink it. And
when I see people with last year's Hammer Smash Face, like 2016, and they're like, "Oh, it's falling off a little bit," I'm like, "Why didn't you wait a year to drink it, man?
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect was going to happen? I mean, we put fresh coffee in it. You know, we put fresh vanilla in it. Those are all going to go as it sits. You know, it was meant to be had now.
Yeah.
You know?
And when somebody says, you know, it's falling off, I mean, yeah, over time it'll fall off for sure. Just that's the nature of aging, I guess. But, you know, when you drink it for the first time compared to maybe like a second time or something, temperatures and environment and all that stuff play so much on, you know, experience.
I'd say 3 weeks to 6 months is a great spot for our stouts.
Yeah.
We really want to maximize how you're doing our stouts.
Well, speak on your stouts for just a minute, Vince, because your stout game is so strong. Like, everything I've had is just like, oh, my God, that's it right there. Just the
it started out the milk stouts. That's Ben's recipe.
Yeah.
You know that
That's
we had
the
to tweak it a little bit so that it would work with this system, but that's Ben's recipe straight up.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much been saying, hey, let's put some coffee on this. Hey, let's let's do this one with with vanilla and coffee to have more of a White Russian.
Well, except MTV. I think MTV, like, I came in one day and he had made a 5-gallon test keg just on a whim.
Yeah.
And he was like, I put Chipotle and coconut and chocolate, or what did you put? You put
cinnamon.
Cinnamon, and it had no coffee in it originally.
Yeah.
And then, and I tasted it, and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, dude, let's do this one. But it was that easy with it. I mean, he never said he had planned on doing it, or he never, said anything about it. He just made it and was like, what do you think about this? I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, this is great.
And that was the going from 5 gallons of that to
that was very
a
hard.
big batch of that was very difficult with just the ratios of the coconut and the cinnamon and the chipotle, and then adding coffee into it.
Ridiculous amount of stuff in there, and even then we were like using different versions of things, going, well, this one works better.
Yeah. Was it just chipotle powder, or did you use like whole smoke?
We actually we did chipotle powder on our first one, and then we used whole chipotle powder from now on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we opened them up and cleaned them out.
What's the difference? Is it more of like a fruity flavor that you get, or?
I actually do think you get a little more smoke, and I think you get a little more sweetness in it than if you use the powder. Okay. The burn isn't as much of like a sharp burn. It's more of a soft burn.
And it gets right, in the back of your throat, which is where you want it. That sounds like super dirty. Really where you want it, in the back of your throat. Super hard and dirty. It's. I think, like, as far as all our stouts go, that was the one that we had to really keep on reevaluating. And Alan fucking hates cinnamon, so it was a constant. Like, and I would be like, it needs more cinnamon.
Yeah.
Put more cinnamon in it. And then it'd be like, well, you can't taste the toasted coconut. We'll fucking throw more of that in there.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, and I came to him, what do you think about putting a little bit of coffee in there? Drag some of that chocolate and stuff.
It gave it even more roundness to it.
It reached it out a little bit and filled in some things on it where I think I tasted it. The batch we bottled, I'm like, holy fuck, dude, this is crazy good. And I think when you taste them, you're like, this is like dessert in a bottle. Mm-hmm. Would you want to drink 10 of them? Probably not. I would recommend it.
Now the coffee, is that petrol station started as a
coffee house.
Coffee house.
Like I think that's a lot of it. Is my background is big into coffee. I own a roaster. I sold at Central Market, in a couple places around town, and I was big into like the whole thought process behind making coffee. Mm-hmm. To be able to lay that on beer and use sort of techniques that are used in coffee for making beer, it was cool. And that's what I'm saying. I came to him and I'm like, I have no idea, but you do. So how the fuck do you make this work? And he's like, what the fuck are you asking me to do? And I explained it to him a couple times, and then there was a look on his face that was like, I want to kill you almost. And then maybe 3 or 4 days later, he came back to me and said, I figured it out.
I did some research, talked to some friends that actually have coffee and beer.
Yeah, which is cool about beer. I mean, he was able to call, Surly and talk to. Is that who? You talked to Todd, right?
Yeah.
And then he kind of not smoothed it out, but kind of said, hey, this is how we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we were leaning already, and so we knew it was actually possible. So.
Yeah. Cool. I love coffee too. There's something bad. Like it's very similar. Like
the profiles are definitely.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day when he buys a roaster and we have an espresso machine in the bar.
I mean, that's my end goal. Is I'd like to roast the coffee for our beers, and then you can buy the coffee as well, and say, well, this is the coffee we used to make so and so, or
Yeah.
And I think that would be like a good place for us to end up. But
so look, there's a project that's going forward.
There you go. We always have ideas for shit.
Yeah.
And even Black Masses, when I came to him with Black Masses, and I knew it was stupid, I'm like, look, I know we make cortado, but what do you think about how they double dry hop shit? Let's double coffee this bitch. And then,
cortado has a shit ton of coffee in it.
And people are already saying, cortado's the most coffee beer I've ever had, and I think that was egging me on. Like,
oh, really? I think we could probably,
And when we talked about it, he was like a literal double, or just like 30 pounds more, or, whatever. I'm like, well, it wouldn't be fair unless we did a literal double, because that's what we're billing it as. And then I think when we did it and I tasted it, I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Alan and Robbie, they call it fight milk.
Yeah, well, because the way you feel when you drink it, man, you can feel like the hairs on your arms, and like cold sweats and shit. Like, it is fight milk.
So you double, just like.
It's actually a literal amount of double coffee from Cortado. The beer's identical. It's just a double amount of coffee.
When do you add the coffee?
We can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
proprietary.
that's one of the things we want to keep secret.
Okay. Yeah. What about like randling it through coffee beans or something? Is that something else? Is that a thing? Does that work?
I mean, it works, but you really want saturation.
Yeah.
And
I don't
you
really
Would
like
you need hot beer to make
I
that
don't like
really?
the Randall thing. I never really cared for the Randall.
I mean,
It seems like
this
you,
is
it too-
boredom with craft beer that kind of leads to things like this.
Yeah.
But the brewers are already doing it, so do you need to add peanut butter and
Yeah.
and underwear or whatever the fuck you're putting in a Randall?
Depends whose underwear. I
It's
suppose.
gonna get people to come out to a bar because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I've never had chili and cheese stout before.
mac and cheese stout.
But then you get down to it, you're
Same
like,
thing.
well, I never really wanted that either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
kitchen sink brewing is not necessarily a good thing. There needs to be more purpose when you're brewing.
Yeah.
And just throwing adjuncts in a beer does not make it good.
Right.
And we get shit for that on our stouts. Like, oh, you guys are adjunct, blah, 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 blah. You make fucking 8 ingredients work together then if you're so, confident in it. And I'm not saying you're not, but if you do it, then show us how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we read homebrew threads, and sure, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I read homebrew threads because homebrewers are that guy that, you're making 5 gallons, you're going to have time to do all kinds of crazy shit with it that is going to be hard for us to do. If we have an idea, that's a good way to go down a wormhole is on the internet on a fucking homebrew talk, and those guys have a ton of content. They're really into it, dude. A lot of these guys could be professional brewers. They're just never going to take that leap because they have a job and kids and whatever else. But there's tons of content online that help out. I mean, even making our IPAs, we were like trying to really nail a West Coast style, and I made him brew Cali Green. I think we went to 26 test batches on it, and he's sending me texts in the night like, what the fuck are you trying to do? You're making minor tweaks. You're making me keep on brewing this shit over and over again. But I think for me, I was looking for something specific, and he's saying, well, when you scale it up, we're gonna have to.
it's going to be completely different. Yeah.
Which we did. I mean, it was, and we had to reevaluate, and then as new things came to us that he learned about, we were able to implement them into it too, where you're like, okay, this is getting real West Coast, we're really beginning to nail the style. But we did read some homebrew shit that helped us out, kind of to get that profile. I mean, these guys are doing a ton of research, so.
That's cool. So if you're a home brewer and you post on wherever.
There might be a professional brewer reading
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, don't.
Or, the jackass that works with a professional brewer.
There you go. Well, you had mentioned that you needed to be out by, I think you said 11:30, so we made sure we took you almost 40 minutes past that.
Perfect.
So
Nice.
Perfect.
hopefully we kept you from most of your work for the day.
Pretty much, that's all right. I don't mind that.
All right. Well, everybody, come by Brash because, it's awesome. Brashland, come check out the experience. Come try the beers here. And, guys, just thank you so much.
Local period, man.
Just- yeah.
Support
Yeah.
those local guys, because if you like variety, and I see people in the store when they buy Goose Island and Carbach and shit, and they see me and they know who I am, and they're like, they look flustered all of a sudden, like, oh shit, what's this in my hand? Like, dude, you buy what you want to buy, but if you like that variety, support them local people, man.
Yeah.
Go to the breweries. That's how they make money. Go to their releases, and
Yeah.
then 10 years from now, you'll look back and be like, hey, Portland thought they had a good scene. Look at us now. We're a major city. We should have a ton of breweries.
No, I think we're on the cusp of, becoming like. I think they're sleeping on us.
Right, and every homebrewer out there who's like made labels and wax dipped your bottles and taken them to Whole Foods and put them on the shelf and take a picture and made yourself some shirts and whatever. Yeah, do it, man. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to take that plunge. Quit your job. It's possible.
Yeah.
It depends how driven you are, and if your friends are telling you your beers are badass and you think they are, there's a future in it for you, and we need people like that.
Yeah.
So open your brewery, man. Take
Yeah.
that dream.
Don't listen to the hype that it's oversaturated or anything like that. 'cause
Look at
that's-
San Diego
look who's-
County.
Yeah. Look who's coming
was
from.
there
too.
170 breweries
Right,
in
and
San
the
Diego
future is
County?
local beer, man. So
Yeah.
fill in those blanks for the local scene, and if you're that guy sitting around going, well, I can get the money if I want it, but I'm worried about quitting my job, you'll be all right, man. There's a
Yeah.
scene ready for you, and it might not be easy at first, but you'll look back 5 years and be like, I'm really glad I heard that dumbass on that podcast telling me I should quit my job and be a go from homebrewing to being a brewer, because it's your dream, man. Do it.
Yeah. You only get one go around here, huh?
Yeah.
Disclaimer: if you get divorced and you lose your children or something, I never told you to quit your fucking job.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on this episode of
No
Interbrews.
worries, man. Sorry it took so long.
No, it was well worth the wait, and I hope we can come back and do it again. As soon as you'll have us
4 or
back.
5 years
Oh, yeah.
from now,
Whatever.
back at it.
All right. Well, for Vince and Ben Kennedy, great job again as always.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. I'm Josh, and this is Interbrews.